Welcome to a program I'm doing with my good friend Val Tignini. We're calling it Something Out There.
Yes, something out there.
And this is a focus on UFO ET consciousness. It's part of my series, New Realities. And what's your series?
My series?
Yeah, what's
Well,
your...
I have a website called valsecrets.com.
So we both tapped into this other level of consciousness, and we want to talk about what that means to people as far as getting messages from a kind of higher level and integrating that into this world. So maybe you could start a little bit, and I'll tell my story, but how did you connect with this thing we're calling ET consciousness, if that's what it is? It might be something else entirely, but what you're an actress and then you had an awakening. Tell people what actually happened to you.
Oh, I was always kind of tuned to this other world, but never made a big deal out of it. I had an experience when I was about, I want to say 14.
Right.
I had a UFO come to my window.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Did you think it was weird?
No.
You didn't. A UFO, a ship, actually came.
A ship, but it was the size of like one of those Bozu balls, you know, those exercise balls. It's like a smaller ship, which I think, I didn't think it was a UFO until I felt the energy of it.
What was the energy? Because I think I want to do this series so people can start to relate in their own lives if they're getting sort of those impressions. So what was the energy that you felt?
Oh my gosh, that was hot. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We're just having tea with a bunch of people listening. That's okay.
So I mean, essentially, energy is not from this world.
But what did it feel like?
It's very static, but also electric, to the point where your body doesn't know what to do with the energy. So everything starts kind of moving faster. It feels like your heart's
like an acceleration. Oh, your heart's beating fast.
Yeah, everything's like pumping faster.
Yeah.
Maybe your eyes are moving faster.
Actually, I have felt that in contact with other beings. It's like my whole body's vibrating. Yes. So that happened to you when you were 14.
And
but then you forgot about it.
Yeah, I forgot about it, and then like 15 years later,
yes,
I had this experience where I had Kundalini awakening, and then after that, I had contact.
Right. The Kundalini awakening is quite a dramatic story. Here, move over this way.
Actually, Alan, the first time I had contact with physical beings was when I went to go see you in Connecticut.
Oh, right. I was giving a lecture on remote viewing with Colin Andrews. And when did you have, what happened, when did that happen, though, during that visit?
Well, I don't know if you remember, we got into a car accident after.
Oh, you had a little fender bender, yes.
Yeah.
And it was a small thing.
Yeah, it was a small thing.
Yes.
But I don't know if you remember, I gave the woman a rose. And she got all freaked out. And the police officer took me to the side and goes, "She's not like you." And I looked at him, I was like, "What do you mean by that?"
Right.
So anyway, when we went home, everything was fine, but I still felt different. Actually, at the event,
the lecture.
At the lecture, Colin Andrews had a slide where it had 4:44 p.m.
Right.
And it was exactly 4:44 p.m.
Oh, yes, that was very synchronistic. During the lecture, he mentioned 4:44 p.m. when this ET contact came through. It was a slide that said 4:44, and there was actually 4:44.
And seconds after, I felt this blowing in my ear, which was familiar to me when I was a kid. When my sister and I both had that experience one day after another.
Did she see the ship too, your sister?
She didn't, but she felt that, and I was like, "Oh, that wasn't a ghost," because we thought it was a ghost, but it was actually an ET.
Right.
So anyway, fast forward, that night, 2 tall beings came into my room.
The night after that lecture.
That night.
That night. And did they say anything to you?
Absolutely. I mean, they took me up. My physical body was, I think, still in the bed, but my astral body was floating up, and it went up into where some of you call Sirius.
How did you know it was Sirius?
I didn't know then, but I had to do research afterwards to see what it was, because it went into, I saw this crystal city and these beings, and I didn't know where I was. Nobody said, "You welcome to Sirius." It wasn't like this,
There was no signpost that said "Welcome to Sirius."
No, no.
But that was a vibrational shift. So the shift sort of happened during the lecture. Something got ignited for you, and then you see, I think when people open to synchronicities, you start to realize that there's an interconnection throughout the universe, and that ignites a different part of the brain. That's my theory about it.
Well, speaking of the brain, so this crystal city was basically in a formation of that looked like the brain.
It did?
I couldn't see it from that
Maybe
point of view.
Maybe you went into your own brain. Maybe that was...
Well, whatever's outside is inside. Whatever's inside is outside.
But you actually, yeah.
So, but the point is that after I left...
After you came back home?
After I came back home into my body, the only thing I came back with was this phrase, higher consciousness. And mind you, I didn't understand this terminology.
You didn't know what that meant at all?
No, at all. So I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? So of course, the first thing I do is Google. And I relate to things through images. So I go straight to Google Images, and I'm scrolling down, and I see this painting of this woman. She created this diamond shape that's kind of like this. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what I saw.
So the diamond shape was an image for you of higher consciousness.
Right. Because when I left my body, it felt like I had them holding my hands, and we were floating into this diamond shape, which had a platform in the middle of the diamond. So it kind of looked like the diamond was cut in half. And there were two beings waiting for us at this platform. And we were going into this diamond shape. And it was that was the Sirius world, the star, the star world.
Have you been back to that world, and was it the same sort of... No, you haven't been back there.
No. But do you remember the other... It's always with you, Alan.
I don't know. Well, some people say I'm connected, but I don't know. I feel beings, but what?
But do you remember that one night that you doing something to my head, and then what happened was that night I said I'm gonna have.
Oh, you did say that.
You're touching an antenna.
Kundalini. Yeah, and what happened to you then?
And that night I had these beings again come to me, but now it was different because I had my eyes closed, and all of a sudden, the moment I closed my eyes, I saw this kaleidoscope, kind of look like you're going into a diamond kaleidoscope, and
the diamond again.
Yes, and then it went, but this time it was like a circular kaleidoscope diamond, and I'm going into that. I'm like, oh my god, this is so amazing. Why do I keep my eyes open? And then as I'm traveling through this, there were two beings there again waiting for me. And they said to me, now you're ready for the next level of consciousness. And they were telling me, you're receiving diamond consciousness.
Wow. Well, I was working on the crown chakra just as an experiment to see if something would happen if I put some energy through the crown and see if it would be activated. The pineal, because the pineal gland sits inside the skull below the crown. And when there's energy sent there, it opens up higher than visible light vision. So I guess that experiment worked then because...
totally worked.
But
everything works on me.
But yeah, because you're awakened. And that's why I want to do more shows with you, because I feel you have access to something beyond your personality, beyond your conscious mind, beyond what you even know. You're like an antenna, and it also inspires me to tap into that part of myself. So my ET experiences haven't been as lucid as yours. I mean, I get a sense of what might be, what we say, out there, but they're still very vague. I'm still maybe too much of mind in this world, but you've had other contact too when you were at that retreat, right?
Yeah, so I have retreats and I call the ETs in, but I also call them in at the obelisk in New York
Can you
City.
call them in now? No, it's okay. Too much pressure.
I mean, it's possible, but
no, okay. But tell me what happens when they show up, because different beings show up for you, right?
Yeah, Syrians, Palladians, Arcturians.
What's the difference between Syrians and Pleiadians? Is there a difference, or is
not
it just...
really?
No.
Not really. But the thing is, Pleiadians are more humanoid. Syrians are more mixed race, from like reptilian to humanoid, and Pleiadians are mainly humanoid. But actually, the Pleiadians are the hybrid of a Syrian.
Of the Syrians? The Pleiadians are hybrids of Syrians, and what?
They're mixed Syrians with the Venusians.
Oh, really? They're really Venusians. You
So
look
they're
very
mixed.
Venusian.
I am.
Okay.
Well, I'm a little bit of both.
But I think the reason I want to do this program, and maybe I'll also stream a gathering I'm calling an ET Roundtable tonight, is that for me also there's like consciousnesses that are sort of knocking on our door, and if we get out of the way, I feel we can receive messages. Like when I was with you the other time, I started to channel sort of a higher consciousness myself.
You do.
And I think it's all about channeling a higher consciousness is what we're here to activate as a planetary civilization. That's the excitement. I don't even know what those words mean, planetary civilization, except that we're all connected.
Yeah.
We are, as Russell Targ was quoting, what was he quoting? Edwin Schrodinger the other night on Richard Dolan's podcast. He says that Targ said about Schrodinger that consciousness is a singular. There's not my consciousness and your consciousness.
That's right.
There's just consciousness.
That's right.
And when we close our eyes and tune into that inner place, that inner place for me is the same as that inner place for you. And that's the connection in consciousness. It's hard to understand that because we're in separate bodies. So how could we share something so interior to ourselves?
A good example of that, I practice this with some of the people that come to my retreats or whatever. I tell them to look at the sun for 3 seconds with their eyes open. Then I tell them to close their eyes and still look at the sun with their eyes closed for 3 seconds. And then I asked every single one of them, what did they see? And they all see the same thing.
What's that?
Whatever that may be. It's always changing because the sun gives out different kinds of codes, but they all see the same exact thing, which is the same consciousness.
Right. I think codes are important here. There's many people like Carolyn Corey who talk about codes and grid lines. I think we're being encoded with a higher frequency. Actually, that is another reason I wanted to have you here, is because you do activate the frequency. You raise the vibration through your Kundalini awakening. How do you do that? Can you give us an example?
How do I do that?
No, can you raise the frequency?
It's always, to me, see, my vibration's always up, and it just matters. It just depends on who's around me and how they react to it. So and basically it all has to do with your mind, like how open your heart is and how much you're in your heart versus how much you're in your head.
Right. That's good. So how do you get to your heart?
How do you get to your heart? Well, I mean, that's why I tell people to kind of relax, so then their minds kind of shut off or shut down in a way. But to go to your heart is simple.
You just feel.
You just feel.
Okay. Is that it?
Just feel.
Stop thinking.
Yeah.
And feel. And what will that do?
Okay, let's just do it right now.
Okay, let's just do it.
Let's just see.
Let's just do it. Okay. Yeah, I feel an expansion.
Exactly. See, I know. I can tell exactly what the person's going through. I could feel energy coming here, coming in here. I feel all that.
So are you always open there?
Always.
You're always open, even with
never stop.
family situations,
Yes.
dramas.
Even if I'm angry, it's still energy, the energy that's coming through.
Is it?
Yes.
And that was a shift for you because you're Kundalini, right?
Yes.
So something just opened inside.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when I'm there and opening like this, it feels like an expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are watching, and there are some people watching, what would you tell them?
Same thing. Just kind of drop whatever's in your mind.
Mm.
You know, right now in this moment, there's nothing more important than this moment. Just if you need to, you can close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So you could probably feel it in your heart.
It's like an expansion in the chest. Just try imagining, visualizing that. And I think what you visualize becomes the reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't even need to do that. You just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
Alan, you're just feeling it.
I am feeling it. But the big question is, what's the relationship between that and the ETs? That's really what I want to get to in these programs. How do we include this other level of consciousness? Because that's always been happening, and it's great. I recommend expansion, heart expansion. But the ET part of the equation is something I think new coming into our consciousness.
Well, whatever I'm doing, this energy that I'm working with is, to me, is divine. And this higher vibration is, any higher vibration is divine energy. And so ETs have this energy, which means they are divine beings that are connecting with us, that are trying to raise our vibration and our consciousness. And so we have so much stigma around these beings, that they're trying to hurt us, that they're trying to change us.
A lot of fear. That's
right?
unnecessary.
And I understand, because when this energy comes in contact with people's, let's call it shit.
Sure. Whatever you want to call it.
You know, whatever their stuff, it's basically a lot of ego stuff.
Well, what comes in contact with that?
This energy, because it's so pure.
This divine energy.
Yes, it's so pure. The vibration is so pure. When it comes in contact with people that have a lot of stuff, pain, anger, ego, all that stuff, it shakes their core. And the ego gets more and more and more angry, or more scared, or whatever that is. And so it wants to eject, because it doesn't want to be shut down.
The ego wants to, say, shut off from the feelings. Is that what you're saying?
No, it just wants to shut out that energy, because it says, no, you're gonna shut me down.
Okay.
Yeah. So this energy is so pure and so divine that it can heal, it can activate, it can do so many amazing things. It's magic.
It is magic. That purity of feeling, when I felt you tap into something, it is like a current that goes through the body.
It's a current.
So that's divine. So the ETs have that as well, you're saying?
Absolutely.
And of course, everybody has it, but I think the more evolved ETs are living actually on that current of energy, as opposed to food or even air. It's the current of frequency of vibration that actually is the life force that's activating those, let's call them, higher beings.
Put it this way. Any gods that we know of today, any religious gods, they all have connection to ET like a relationship, or they are ET themselves.
So are you feeling those higher ETs? Are you feeling that? Are you feeling some shift now in this time and age that you're tapping into a pure part of the divine, or are you just saying you're always there?
Are they always here?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of us, have guides, and some people relate to them as angels, or I don't know how. Maybe they just call them guides. But and those guides are usually something that comes from a higher dimension, and it might as well be an ET.
Okay, no, oh, someone just asking, are we taking questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Let's take questions. Are
Yeah,
you
we could
taking
take questions from here
from a Facebook Live? And
or
where's the,
from
is there a
here.
chat on here? Yes.
Yeah, live chat.
Wait, so sorry, repeat what that last thing that you just said was.
So basically, a lot of us have like angels or guides or even gods. And
Right.
and a lot of us, think that these beings, are just sent by the creator God. But in essence, these beings are also ETs because what we think that ETs are is usually like, the Greys, right?
Right.
Most
And
people,
that's one race of
yeah, it's
beings.
one race, and that race I have no relation to. Do
You don't, I do actually have a connection to them.
I don't. I usually my relations mostly towards the humanoid beings, and then I have some relation to some of the like
The higher conscious and the reptilian.
yes, but the little like lizard looking ones, the frog
I don't
one.
connect with those beings. But I think the Greys are not bad. I think they're just misunderstood.
Yes, they are.
And I think they're here for our genetics, which is a bit of a an invasion, I suppose. But we're also here. They're also here to evolve us, as we're here to evolve them. So these beings, what are the little reptilians here to do for you?
No, I mean I've had some experience with the frog beings, and
I've never heard of the frog beings.
yes,
Really? Okay.
and actually, they're very small beings, but these beings are very like they bring a lot of joy. A lot of joy into your
They're
life.
intelligent,
Very intelligent, and they're very peaceful. But there's all kinds of beings that we don't know of, and I don't know of because I don't know the whole race.
Of course, there are probably millions of beings just in our universe. Yeah. So it's like, it's like who do you bump into on the street?
Yeah,
it's like a frequency of consciousness. Yeah. Are you, you can meet all sorts on the streets, or usually you're drawn to the people or the beings, and now we've just opened a bigger playing field of what you're vibrating with. So I think that's probably what it is with those other beings. But we're opening a different part of our brain that will vibrate with these extraterrestrial frequencies. And I think that's what you said about codes coming in, and then we start to activate more of ourselves. Let's see, I don't know if you know.
So we have a question here by Paul, and he's asking, do you have any suggestions around managing the ego or getting rid of it completely?
Oh, that's good.
You'll never get rid of the ego completely because the ego is what gives you the identification of yourself. So just managing it is basically you just allow the ego to give you sense of self.
Right.
There's just a sense of self, and everything else should flow from your heart. Really, that's how most ETs operate.
It is. I think they are more heart-based and more intelligent when you reach the higher ETs. Another comment here by C.W. Chanter is, when you try to see every moment of life from the love point of view, do things for the good of everybody and not for your profit, then your heart chakra is open and Kundalini will arise. Right?
Is that a question or a statement?
No, I think that's a statement. But that happened to you, but your Kundalini arose sort of unexpectedly.
Yeah, well, I had, I went to an event where Abdi Electricite, he says he works with the Holy Spirit.
Who does?
Abdi.
Oh, Abdi.
Source energy, whatever. And so, that energy flowed through me, through the chakras one at a time.
Right. I mean, you would have had that Kundalini experience. I was there. I saw Val like bouncing off the floor when her Kundalini awoke. It was very dramatic. You were screaming, yelling, and pounding the floor and crying. But it was like a break. It was fascinating, I have to say. You could see this person like morphing and transforming your outer body to inhabit your inner body. That's what I saw there. So when the Kundalini awakens, it's usually time. It may be a surprise. It can be shocking, but I think we're all coming to that on this planet.
We are. And actually, I've been called to kind of have a support group for people who are having Kundalini awakening, because there's
nice.
so many people that are popping up now.
Nice.
And actually, when you do have a full blown Kundalini awakening, that's when ETs come to you. And
what's the connection? Because that's what I'm trying to understand. Is there a connection between that body energy and the ETs? But what else were you going to say?
Yes.
Oh, well, what's that connection?
Because Kundalini is not from this earth.
I see. Kundalini is like a cosmic force.
It is a cosmic force.
Oh, so when you tap the cosmic force, you're putting out like a cosmic signal.
That's right.
It's like you turned on
like a light bulb. Boop,
the cosmic signal, and that also probably freaks people out because they haven't had the awareness of this. So that explains a lot. Thank you for saying that. The Kundalini is not of this earth, because it is that same spiral that our galaxy, I think, rotates around. That energy of the galaxy is the energy that's moving through our bodies, and the awakening of the Kundalini is the awakening of that galactic spiral energy. I think. I just thought.
Yeah, I mean, for some of you that are like, that are religious, some people think that, like when they have Kundalini yoga, in that sense, they tune into their guru or whatever. When you tune into your guru, you're blocking yourself from that higher gateway, because the guru kind of caps it instead of actually going all the way up.
Right. But in the old paradigm, the Piscean age, we're in the Aquarian age, the guru said, and I don't know if I believe it, would take on the karma of the student and transmute that fast. So they were the bridge, they weren't the block to those other realms. But now, because we're all being activated, we don't need a middleman. We don't need priests or religious leaders or gurus. We are the direct conduit of source. That's my feeling about this new time. And there's so much out there that if you're interested in what's happening spiritually and unfoldment, there's so many great teachers out there.
Although I do have to say that when you do have a Kundalini awakening, you do need guidance.
Right, but you don't want someone to do it for you.
No, you don't want someone to do it for you. You don't want someone to tell you that they're less than you. You don't want someone to tell you that whatever you're going through is something, less than what it is.
Right.
Because whatever you're going through is actually very powerful, and you're on I always say it's like a peeling of the onion. You're on your way to get down to the core of who you really are, and that's amazing.
And the age of hierarchies, one person being better than the other, it's finished. We are definitely all equal on that soul level.
Yes.
We may not all have the same
intelligence
or wisdom or soul experience, but the potential and the crystallization of that soul energy is absolutely the same
for, that's a fact.
For beings here or any beings. That's what makes us equal to those ETs. They may have a much vaster intelligence and awareness, but they're not greater than us.
That's right.
So someone asked me here on the chat, are ETs possibly humans from the future have come back? I think that's one possibility, but I think most ETs are also in a different time flow. And so I don't necessarily think they're us. The cosmos is full of life. It's vast. I mean, say every sun, I would say, every star has planets that have life. Maybe even stars themselves have life. We have yet to understand the cosmos. We understand just such a small piece.
Absolutely.
And such a small piece of our potential.
Absolutely. And actually, every day, scientists are coming up with new theories and things that mystics have known for years, thousands of years. And they're finally saying, oh, look, we discovered. It's like, okay, well, this has been known for so long. And so many people like us, regular people, have known that there is something out there. And then they're still trying to prove that there might be something out there, but we know that there is.
Well, I've also been emceeing at Contact in the Desert and reading a lot of books. I just read this book called Dimensions by Jacques Vallée. And Jacques Vallée says, if ETs just turn out to be beings from another planet, that he'd be very disappointed, because there's so much more. There's a paranormal element to ET contact. There's a dimensional idea. So UFOs are not just hardware from another star. There's a multiple dimensional aspect to that consciousness. And also, just being, in my experience, just being in the presence of an ET shifts you.
Absolutely.
You do not think the same. It's like feeling high or drunk. It's a distortion of frequency. At least that's my experience.
No, it's not a distortion. It's a purification.
Well, maybe that's true. That's a good point. So this is the distortion.
This is the distortion,
right?
But that's the purification of your frequency.
Right, that's true. But this is the frequency most people are used to. So in order to get used to that frequency, which I call a distortion, which might be your real frequency,
yes,
I think you have to practice lucidity. We have to practice
meditation
and dream state awareness and being conscious in other realms. That's what it feels like as I tune into that. When I tune into those experiences I had, yeah, maybe distortion is not right, but it's altered. It's altered from the human frequency.
That's right. It's altered state of consciousness, and we, most of us think that that we're a little bit delusional.
Well, you mean the ET population?
Well, yeah, a lot of people think like, oh, there's no proof that there are other, life on other planets, and a lot of, I know I talk to all kinds of people, not just people like, like us, but people, but people that are, that quote unquote normal, and
well, people don't have any idea. Basically.
Yeah, they just don't believe because they've never seen, and I was like that. I'm a kind of person, if I don't see it, I can't believe it.
So it shifted you.
But these beings come to me, and every time I ask for confirmation in that sense, beings come to me, including other beings. Like, I grew up Catholic, so I used to call out to Jesus all the time and say, okay, I don't believe in you, so you better come to me to prove yourself to me.
And what happened?
I never saw him in that time period, and now I do, but in that time period, I never saw him. But then one day, I heard the voice, I'm here.
That was the voice of Jesus?
Well, I just said I'm here, and I just got so scared, and I just blocked it out, and I was like, oh, I don't want to hear this anymore, and don't want to go there.
Well, because you opened up, and I think maybe Jesus, why not, comes to people just like other higher beings.
And you know what? I realized that then I was never really scared. I was never, but I did have the conditioning to be scared.
Well, that's our conditioning within our culture. We watch television, we see the news. The news is saying, be scared, build a wall, block people out.
I want to ask the audience, how many of you scared of ETs?
Well, that's a good question but I don't even like to focus on that, because if they focus on their fear, they will miss the good news that is coming to them. So people have fear. Actually, I've had fear when I've met these grays, but I think, and it's traumatic, but I also feel like in some regressions, you can look at my regressions on my YouTube channel, New Realities, where I've gotten used to that altered state. So, Plato has a saying, dogs also bark at what they don't know.
Yes.
So we're afraid of what we don't know, and this state of consciousness will generate fear because it's not known. But if we go into the unknown with excitement, then I think our whole orientation to these other beings, or even Jesus, you should talk to him again, maybe he has some news for you. But this is what we're opening up to as a planetary human civilization, the fact that we are connected, and we've been taught to not trust our mind.
That's right. Actually, I wanted to mention this recent story. I was in Costa Rica, and there's a lot of activity there, UFO activity. And when the last time I was there, the last few times I was there, I had all kinds of experiences. Of course, the purer the places, the more ET activity there is. So I have retreats upstate New York, and they come there as well. But in Costa Rica, they were there as well in the jungle. And so what happened was I was calling them in, and I had maybe like 5 or 6 people around me, and this one girl comes up to us and she says, "Are you guys calling in the ETs?" Like making fun of us.
Funny, yeah.
and I had already announced that I said, "Oh, they're trying to come through me," and I'm not one to channel. I don't like to channel. And
well, if you're getting a message,
yeah, I do that. Well, I get the message, but then I don't want to really like be a vessel. Like I don't want to exit my body.
You don't have to exit the channel though. You can just download. But anyway, so you said.
So I said I don't want to channel, but somebody else want to channel, and then she heard that, and she goes, I'm willing." All of a sudden, she was zapped with energy. Kundalini went through the roof, and she dropped on the floor, and she was vibrating and speaking all kinds of light language, and I too was so I was like, people had to hold my back because my whole body was shaking, like vibrating.
That happens when you do your Kundalini
but it's
activation.
The most powerful energy, far beyond anything I've ever felt.
Oh, that time in Costa Rica.
And I'll tell you why, because it's direct. It's from the direct source. They're operating from that source.
So you felt like a download of ET energy through the Kundalini.
Absolutely, and every time I have spurts of Kundalini.
There's a question on your Facebook chat about the movie War of the Worlds started the fear. Well, I have to say I've studied that, and that comes from a book that was written in the 1890s by H.G. Wells, when the first global sightings of what they would call airships in the 1890s started, and people projected fear because it was the unknown. And then Orson Welles did a War of the Worlds update, I think it was in 1932, and people are taught to be afraid of the other. That's what the whole thing about building a wall is, being afraid of the other. But that's human. I think other realms, other ETs, they don't come from the idea of conquering, taking over.
No.
I mean, they haven't landed on the White House lawn because they don't want to interfere with the internal politics and the internal structures. We have to reach towards them. I mean, the appearance of these beings will lift us to possibilities, but they're not going to save us, is really what I'm trying to say.
Well, to talk about that.
Yeah, talk about that.
My feeling is when I was up there in Sirius, there was a time, and there is a war in the universe.
Is there?
Yes.
I haven't been tuning into that.
And there is, but it's only coming. It's coming to an end at this point.
What's the war between who and who?
It's the light and the dark. It's the it's like
is it a war, or is it a way to? There's always duality and polarity, yes. So it's like it's not necessarily good and evil. It's to make ourselves stronger, maybe.
Well, everything has a purpose. Yes.
Maybe that's not your opinion. Yes,
but
it's okay.
That's the higher. The higher knowing that everything does have a purpose. But on this plane, there is, because we talk about things from higher intelligence, and that, yes, it has purpose.
So the war, but I understand what you're saying. The war between dark and light is ending because
we're coming to a point, a new era of this spiritual age, where we're starting to move towards being more enlightened beings here on the planet. And then it's going to take a while, about 200 years or so, but we're getting there. We're starting to get there, and everybody's starting to pop open and waking up.
Right. That is the great thing. How was it when the earth woke up, when humanity woke up?
12,000 years ago.
And now.
Yeah.
And now. But I think what is happening is that this push against dark and light, if you want to call it that, will be replaced by this creative expression. I think that's the time we're moving into. So instead of like having wars, we will have calling on some inner source to express greater music, greater songs, greater feelings, greater emotions. We've been as down and as low as we can get as humanity on this planet. I think when we activate this creative expression, the higher senses, some might call that Kundalini as well, start to activate new feelings. So as we graduate to being more feeling, like you're saying in the heart expansion, more creativity starts.
Yes.
And this is the transformation of
Yes.
humanity. This is what I call the flowering of humanity.
Absolutely. And you know, the thing is that we're going to start to stray away from jobs that have only to do with, you know, making money, like finance or
Right.
these kind of jobs that that really don't serve the greater humanity. You know, it's just to make, it's just for, you know, deep pockets, you know, just for people, corporations, and
Well,
all that will start to kind of go away.
Right, and I think some people are afraid of artificial intelligence, but I think those machines will do the jobs people don't want to do, like open doors. And or ridiculous things that people are enslaved to do, and they're missing that divine spark that they
like
have
work in
potential.
factories and things.
Yeah, all that awful stuff that people have been enslaved to just to survive will start to be transformed into creative potential. And that's going to be a huge shift. Imagine if everyone is a songwriter, a poet, a painter, a dancer.
Right. And that's how it was. And we're creating technology that heals, creating technology that opens portals, creating technology that you know, that allows for us to communicate better.
Right. It's what Bashar says. We're moving into a planet where everyone will follow their highest excitement. Whatever that is, we are living, and I think that is the ultimate. What is your highest excitement? Each moment, what do you want to do to serve yourself and the greater humanity? We've been put into boxes because of dogma, religious, political, social dogma. And there's a great time coming. I mean, we're working through a couple of rough spots here, but
we are.
We're awakening.
Everything is shifting and moving towards a more feminine energy. And you know, there's a lot of catalysts right now that are you know, pushing that forward on the earth right now, and that's good. That's a good thing. But the thing is, it's not just for the females of the earth that need to be pushed up. It's also the masculine.
I hope everyone.
The masculine, the feminine within the masculine to be pushed up, and we need to kind of come together. This is the time we need to come together, the male and the female, to come together in harmony, not fight the female fighting the male. It's for that power.
Right, because the women have learned how to be men.
That's right.
And they then fight the male part of them, and the male part denies their own female part.
That's right.
So we've been confused. Actually, let's do our next talk about that balance of the feminine and masculine, the female and male.
And that's really what the diamond consciousness is to access all parts of ourselves. It's that multifaceted mind, the way that we think in the multifaceted way, to open up different parts of our brain where we can access the masculine and the feminine energy. And we need to become balanced, not so much in a way that, you know, we lean towards one another, maybe a little bit more, but not so much.
Right. If you're feminine, you can be the feminine and embody more of that feminine power.
Yeah.
I mean, I could recognize that part in me, but I want it to be expressed in you, where I could feel that, I could see that and sense that.
I mean, I think I'm very feminine in the way I present myself, but even having this discussion is not very feminine.
No, it's a mental thing.
Right. It's a more of a, you know, what I talk about sometimes seems very masculine, but and even in my presentation as well.
Right, but the heart opening, bringing people into that is a feminine type experience. If we want to put things in that sort of boxes, I think we're moving beyond that as we become integrated.
That's right, and we need to merge those two, and that's what really Kundalini is all about. It's those two energies swirling up and down the body, and that we are merging those energies, and that everything in our life, even in lovemaking or you know, coming together with a friend or a female or male, whatever that is, using those energies and merging those energies together, not just not just I'm the female, you're the male, but using my feminine, my masculine, and meeting your feminine, your masculine.
Right. And that's the merging of the Kundalini. And somehow that's related to ETs.
Absolutely it is. And actually, ETs, people ask me all the time, do ETs have sex?
Do they?
No.
They don't? I think they do have a merging of energy bodies.
They have a merging of energy bodies. They have...
Well, it depends how physical they are. I think if they are still evolving through a physical realm, they might have intercourse.
Well, they're not. They're usually in light bodies. So they... How could you? You know, you can have... They have a divine mergence. Yes. And that's how they reproduce. But they don't have the same kind of, you know, sex that
physicality.
Yeah. And, you know, if you think about Tantra, or was it Taoist?
The Taoist practices, yes.
These were also integrated through ET intelligence. So, you know, they received this information from the gods.
Right. And the true tantric Taoist practices was the merging with the other, where there was no separation between the bodies. But I also think, and I do want to pursue this in another discussion, is that there's very specific energies of the feminine. The feminine is nurturing and the masculine is protecting, you know. So when we have those in balance within a partnership or within yourself, you can function in the world in more harmony.
Yes.
So do you think ETs are gender, male, female, the ones that you've met?
They are gender. But once they get into a body.
Well, they're in their light body.
But when they're light bodies, no, there's no gender in the light body, which is the soul. The soul, the soul has no gender.
Maybe everybody has their own gender. Like everybody's frequency is unique to their light being. So we could say there's an infinite amount of genders because it's expressed through each one. That's just my idea. But I think there is a duality here on planet Earth that we're resolving, and I think it will happen. What were you going to say?
No, I mean, I think this conversation about ETs and what you know, a lot of people want to know the details, but it really doesn't matter. If you want to know more about them, learn more about yourself.
Well, that's what one of the comments on your Facebook Live. It's the light and dark within us. Yeah, we all have light and dark within us. We all have the divine, and we have the human that wants something just for itself, and we forget that there's other people, and then we transmute that by saying, no, we're here to serve. And this is the also battle within ourselves, you know. Do you give people on the street money every time they ask? I mean, those are people in need. Or you say, no, I mean, we do have to be more selfless, I think. So maybe that's the practice, to serve and to look at what we're not sharing in ourselves.
Yes, actually, that's one thing that they say all the time, is that you need to do things to help serve humanity, the greater good. And of course yourself. So once you serve others, then you're serving yourself, because then you're actually in your heart all the time, and that is serving yourself.
Right, because everyone is you. So it's almost 4 o'clock here in New York, so
let's just take some questions.
Okay, some questions, then we'll wrap up. And I might do a stream tonight from an ET roundtable discussion I'm having downtown. I'll see what the technology is there. What questions you have? Oh, Dan Topkins is watching. Hey, Dan. But
do you want to scroll?
Oh yeah. Here, I work in a male-centric macho industry. It's typical of the Western society floors. I completely welcome change coming. I find out just soul lines up better with women intuitive. I find my soul lines up better with women.
A lot of men are feeling that.
I think that was that a man or a woman? Okay. Well, I think there is a shift to be more intuitive, to be more open. Culture trains the left brain to conform to expected gender roles. That's true. So we have to get out of those boxes that we've been conditioned to. I always carry some change in my pocket. If a homeless person asks, I give it to them, but their minimum rate is 50 cents. what should USA do about the big homeless problem in major cities? I think just love those beings the best you can. They are in pain and hurting and need to be cared for if we can. That's what I say.
Okay, how about any ET
I don't
questions?
know. Oh, I just want to say hello from Norway. Norway is one of my favorite countries. So thanks for tuning in from Norway. Um, well, why don't we make this like a regular thing that, yes, galactic battles are going on over there by Kathy,
Hmm.
Alien, currently on screen. No biggie. I'm not scared of them.
Okay.
So tell people
So
what,
let's just let you guys know that this is going to be an ongoing podcast,
yes.
something out there with Alan and I, and I don't know, maybe we'll plan on doing a retreat soon.
Hmm.
Um,
I
to
think though talking about this helps me open up and other people. But what were you gonna say? Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't mean to
I
cut
mean
you off.
the point of this podcast is to open people up, educate people, allow them to, to kind of fancy, even if you're not interested in ETs, maybe just kind of you just imagine what it could be like
Hmm.
through whatever we're talking
Right,
about.
exactly. But I do think if you listen to yourself, there's a different vibration coming to the earth, and this is a higher frequency wanting to open up a new neurological understanding. It's like that story about the people on the shore not seeing the boats coming into the shore because they didn't know what to look for. When we start to get messages, we don't know what that is. So just be open to a different current and frequency that's coming through and don't shut it out. Don't think you're going crazy because you're not going crazy. You're shifting your receiver, which is our brain, to pick up new frequencies. It's like a radio station, and there's frequencies we have yet to dial in, and that's what you tapped into. That's what I'm starting to tap into. That's what a lot of us. So don't be afraid when you hear someone say, "I'm here," right?
Yes, don't be afraid, and you'll not start to notice more and more disclosure as the years go by. I started to realize that there was so much disclosure happening in 2011, and I was like, wow,
I think
yeah.
as we disclose the frequencies to ourselves, which is why we're doing this,
Hmm.
because we're just sharing our experience and putting out questions. It's sort of as we disclose the frequencies to ourselves, which is why we're doing this. The difference between ETs and ultra terrestrials. Well, I think ultra terrestrials.
They're just connected to the source.